Hello, everybody. My name is Mauricio Galvão, and I'm here representing the LabSativa project. And I want to welcome everybody that's here today. And it's a very nice opportunity for us to talk about the World Tourism Day. And the United Nations and the World Tourism Organization choose this year uh, the theme Rethinking Tourism. And this year, the event that focused on reimagining the growth of the sector, both in terms of size and relevance, as everyone from tourism workers to tourism themselves, as well as small business, large corporations, and governments, to reflect and rethink how we do tourism. And we are going to discuss how cannabis tourism can help us to achieve our several sustainable development goals and the true potency of the plant in connection with tourism. And to start our journey, we are going to receive in the first block Patrick McCartan and Brian Applegarth to give us an overview about the SGS and cannabis tourism. So I want to welcome Patrick. We are here live now to listen and to see our discourse. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, Maurizio. Thank you very much for the introduction and the invitation.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here, man. And I saw your first discussion in cannabis thinking last year, and it was the first time that I saw somebody talking about SGS and cannabis, and it was a pleasure for me to see that. And I think that today is an important day for us to put cannabis in the front row, talking about tourism. So I think that you can start your discourse about SGS for us. We can know. I have a lot of people that don't know what is it. So I think that when you start to talk, everybody's going to have some idea, and then we talk with Brian about cannabis tourism. Perfect.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much, Maurizio, and all the team at LabSativa. I think this is a really important conversation, and I'm honored to be here to be able to speak with you all today. Just to give you a little bit of a quick introduction, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cannabis. We are an organization that delivers ESG and sustainability to cannabis companies globally. We are also the first organization to deliver a cannabis-related event at the United Nations, which we hosted in May. That was very, very exciting, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. We've been building, our vision is really to build a regenerative industry, a cannabis industry, which of course is going to impact all industries over time, from industrial hemp and industrial cannabis to medical health and wellness, right across, of course, to the most famous recreational and adult use cannabis. Just to give you a little bit of background, when we first moved into the cannabis industry, we felt that it needed a blueprint and a framework and a North Star to align to. And given I had come from the corporate world and worked in corporate sustainability, I had a unique insight into the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal framework. That goal for that the SDG framework was launched in 2015 by the United Nations, and really is a blueprint for the future that we all want for ourselves, our families, and for our future generations. And there are 17 goals that we break them down into economic impact, social impact, and environmental impact. And those goals are really, countries can abide by them, companies can abide by them. And that framework really is the blueprint and the framework that we all want to aspire to. We believe that the cannabis industry in a regulated and legalized world will impact every one of the sustainable development goals, right across from no poverty, which is goal number 1, goal number 3, good health and well-being, goal number 8, decent work and economic growth, All of these 17 sustainable development goals will be impacted by cannabis in some form or another, again, whether it's industrial hemp, medical, or recreational. And we've seen, I'd say about 96% of every corporation out there has a commitment to the UN Sustainable Development Goal framework. And we're starting to see cannabis companies starting to build ESG, environmental social governance, into the fabric of their strategy, number one. But we're also starting to see cannabis companies starting to align their strategies to the UN Sustainable Development Goal framework, the SDGs, which is super exciting and which is a real indicator that the industry globally, not just in North America, is starting to really evolve, to professionalize, to mature, and to think about itself in a much more holistic way. And we're very, very excited about that. And of course, that has a knock-on effect on the economic wellness of countries. For example, Uruguay, obviously North America here, in Canada and the US, in Colombia, in Mexico, in the UK, we have a medical market. In Germany, we're about to unleash a whole new market in all of, including recreational. And that's going to have a knock-on effect on not just on the country's economics, prosperity, but also tourism. And when we think about rethinking tourism, we're really rethinking cannabis and how that's going to play a role in attracting people to visit new places and new territories where cannabis has become regulated and legalized. I'm sorry, do you have a question there, Mauricio?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a very good overview for people that is not familiar with SGS. And we want to know more, Patrick, about Region Apps. Yeah, we are with your CEO from Region Apps, and what kind of products do you deliver to your service? If people want to, companies want to know more, how can we build the ESG between cannabis and cannabis tourism?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, first of all, Regenibus, as I mentioned, we deliver ESG. We help cannabis companies globally think about how they monitor, measure, and report out on their ESG, which in turn feeds into their overall sustainability reports and strategy. We've been helping publicly listed cannabis companies and private cannabis companies, not just, as I mentioned, in North America, around their ESG. And what's very interesting there is when we break down ESG, we can fit the UN Sustainable Development Goals frameworks into those three different buckets. So, for example, on the economic side, we have, as I mentioned, decent work and economic growth, industry innovation, and infrastructure. On the social side, we have gender equality, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities, partnerships, and so forth. And on the environmental side, we have clean water and sanitation, climate action, affordable clean energy, and so forth. So we help our cannabis companies really think about building around their ESG and how they impact these sustainable development goals. What we also do is at our events at the United Nations, which are called Regenerative Cannabis Live, which is an event delivered by Regenibus, we bring the market into the room to talk about how a regulated cannabis and hemp industry will significantly drive the sustainable development goals. Now, this has never been done before at the United Nations until May, when we had our inaugural event, in-person event. And we brought governments, we brought United Nations offices and organizations, Fortune 500 companies, cannabis companies, media, civil society, investors, and so forth, all into the room to really talk about, on a much more larger scale, the significance of cannabis on countries and companies. And just to allude to the rethinking of tourism and how that impacts tourism. If you take New York, for example, we're already starting to see from the metrics and the analysis of the data New York is a very, very recent recently regulated cannabis, and that's already attracting huge amounts of entrepreneurs, new brands, new dispensaries. It's attracting a lot of people into New York at a time when New York desperately needed it in the post-pandemic. So that's going to really, we see this happening and replicating all over cities, all over the world, as cannabis becomes an attraction point, with not just dispensaries, but with it's consumption lounges in time, and we'll start to see them. And really, I think I see the future that cannabis will probably overtake alcohol at some stage. And I'm Irish, and our whole society and tourism is based around alcohol. And I starting to see in other countries a shift in consumer demand and behavior of people, of looking for new ways to socialize, of new ways to spend their dollars and their money as visitors, as tourists in new cities where cannabis is legal. So we're going to start to see a real shift in how the dynamics of cities and locations where cannabis is available. We're going to start to see a real change for the positive, of course, and it's going to drive the economic prosperity. It's going to drive social prosperity in many, many different ways, and then obviously the environmental prosperity too. So there's a real sea change happening quite slowly at the moment, but I think as regulation and legalization speeds up over the next coming years, we're going to see a real different landscape of how tourism looks and how cannabis is going to be incorporated into that. And someday we'll be able to walk down the Champs-Elysees in Paris and have a cup of espresso with some form of cannabis, whether that be a joint or whether that be a vape or whatever it might be, in replace of alcohol.
Perfect. And do you know other kind of industry that's capable to achieve all these goals?
That's a great question, Mauricio. And I really don't think there is any other industry, because when we break down the industry, cannabis is going to impact every industry, whether it's cannabis or hemp, plastic, paper, packaging, biofuels, to the tobacco market, food, pharmaceuticals, even right across the carbon capture and the alcohol industry, of course, the alcohol and beverage industry. So there's no other industry that we've ever seen that's going to truly impact, disrupt in a positive way, and bring about the positive changes that we need to see. Alcohol, cigarettes have done untold damage, as has pharma done in the majority, and we want to see a huge sea change and a shift to more sustainable and more healthy ways to impact these industries, number one, but also they have a positive impact on society and, of course, the environment.
Perfect, Patrick. Thank you very much. We are going to talk with Brian right now, and after he talks, we have more like 5 minutes that we can open a final discussion. Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mauricio.
And I want to welcome Brian. Hello, Brian. Brian Applegarth. How are you doing, man?
Great, Mauricio. Thanks for having me.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you very much to be here with us today. And let's do it. I want you to introduce yourself a little bit and start your presentation.
Sure. Well, first, happy World Tourism Day to everybody. It's an honor to be here. Yeah. And thank you to Mauricio and the LabSativa team for bringing this conversation forward and facilitating it. What an exciting moment. And yeah, I'm going to jump in and do a little bit of education, some data, and then touch on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals through the cannabis travel lens. My name is Brian Applegarth. I'm the founder of the Cannabis Travel Association International. I live in California, and I've been working at the cannabis and hemp travel intersection since 2014. So we're going to dive right in. So today, of course, the conversation is about cannabis and really hemp travel as a vehicle for sustainability and regeneration. So what is the market size and what's the forecast? The global industrial hemp market is forecasted to be 27.2 billion by the year 2028. The global CBD market size is forecasted to grow to 13.4 billion globally by 2028. And then, of course, the global cannabis market size is forecasted to reach 9.4 billion. So the economic growth of these burgeoning industries around the world just screams opportunity for sustainability and regenerative mindsets and models, which we'll get to. Because cannabis and hemp, well integrated into the global travel economy, will absolutely contribute to achieving the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the UN WTO. So something really important in travel is the visitor audience. Who are the eyeballs? Whose attention do you have? Who are you reaching? And what does this mean for sustainability and regeneration with hemp and cannabis? My company, Cultivar Strategies, teamed up with MMGY Travel Intelligence in 2020 and did a national study in the United States on who the cannabis motivated travel audience is and what their size is and how do they self-describe. What we learned is 18% of all adult Americans qualified as cannabis motivated travelers, which equated to 29% of the active leisure travel audience in the United States. We learned that the cannabis motivated travel audience in the United States takes more trips, stays longer, and spends more while in a destination. We also learned that the top 4 experiences of interest were visiting a cannabis retail shop, trying a THC or CBD infused edible or beverage, or enjoying a cannabis CBD rich spa treatment. We also learned that this cannabis travel audience self-describes as foodies and outdoor adventurers and wine enthusiasts to a greater degree than the average active leisure traveler. So what does this mean? It means cannabis travel has arrived and there's an audience here, which is part of this discussion around how we promote and distribute the knowledge through travel, how we teach people about sustainability and regenerative models and mindsets through travel experiences. The latest study we did was this summer, and we learned that the cannabis motivated travel audience has grown 8% since 2020 and now accounts for 37% of the active leisure travel audience in the US. So what does this mean when you zoom out and acknowledge that approximately 30 countries around the world have legal cannabis industries and about 50 countries around the world have legal hemp industries? It means that there's opportunity. So what is cannabis and hemp? A couple quick slides to kind of set the table. The first documentation of cannabis comes out of ancient China. And that documentation speaks to a balancing property. And it's yin yang. Cannabis and hemp are attributed to having this balancing property. And then from China, it went to India, Persia. They found cannabis pollen in the tombs in Egypt. It's made its way to Greece. And by 1950, cannabis was added to the United States medical pharmacopoeia as a medicine. And it remained in that book until 1941, treating all kinds of ailments and available in pharmacies up until 1937. Why is that? It's because hemp and cannabis work directly with something called the endocannabinoid system, which is a system inside the human body. And it works to bring your body back into homeostasis or optimal balance. So when your skeletal system, your immune system, your reproductive system, if anything has gone a bit wrong, the endocannabinoid system, we're learning, is the master modulator of a human being's health and wellness. And it's always working to bring you back into balance, really paying tribute to that initial documentation out of ancient China. And today there's all kinds of consumption for both hemp and cannabis. And these are consumer products, but it goes way beyond that. All those industries that Patrick mentioned. But there are so many ways to consume cannabis and hemp today. And a fraction of those have an altering effect, but many do not. and they all really promote well-being and balance. So what's the core principle? Cannabis and hemp steward balance in many forms. They're vehicles to drive forward sustainable and regenerative methods and concepts in travel, which will equate and make a healthier and happier, more well-balanced world across the board. So let's dig into sustainability and regeneration and what it means concerning hemp and cannabis in the visitor economy. So first, let's look at the hemp sustainability toolkit. We must acknowledge that hemp is one of the most powerful renewable resources on Earth. It grows quickly without much water needed. It has the ability to reduce soil pollution and soil toxicity through a process called phytoremediation. They also say it's a bioaccumulator, so it cleans the soil. And there's case studies of this from Chernobyl, Fukushima, and Puglia. Hemp is biodegradable and compostable and can replace plastics in hotels, attractions, airplanes, etc. The hemp seeds can be turned into plant-based fuel and are better options than other biodiesel sources. Hemp and cannabis plants produce more oxygen than the typical tree. And they also can manifest into non-toxic building materials like hempcrete, as well as sustainable paper. So to Patrick's point, this intersection of disruption with hemp and cannabis is phenomenal. So what about the cannabis sustainability toolkit? So obviously we've learned that cannabis interacts with all your receptors in your body as part of your endocannabinoid system to bring it back into balance. It fosters physical, mental, and spiritual health and balance. The CBD molecule that we hear so much about is gaining a reputation of creating calmness and having therapeutic applications. Or CBN, another cannabinoid, another therapeutic compound found in cannabis and hemp, is increasingly being known for relaxation. Also, we have the altering effects of activated THC. And the consumption of THC mindfully can bring you into the present moment. It can also help you shift your relationship with certain issues, whether it be chronic pain, or whether it be processing something in your life that you need to see from a different angle, or whether you just want to be inspired and creative. It has all those abilities, and the science is unlocking more and more. So how does the role of hemp and cannabis parlay into the tourism and travel ecosystem to uplift and spread regenerative models and sustainable models ongoing? Well, for hotels, you could use hempcrete, or you could replace plastics in hotels. For wellness centers, you can unpack that cannabis sustainability toolkit and just make life more sustainable by understanding all the therapeutic properties, that treasure trove that exists within the hemp and cannabis plant. You might look at attractions as well, replacing all the plastics in attractions and continuing to elevate. That goes into culinary and food, and that food and medicine intersection becoming more powerful. Cannabis literally intersects, cannabis and hemp both intersect with the entire platform of the visitor economy. So what does that mean in relationship to the 17 sustainable development goals that have been outlined by the UN? Tourism and travel has the opportunity and will undoubtedly play a leading role in this next era of global development. And we have the opportunity, by embracing and actively integrating hemp and cannabis, to deliver sustainable solutions for destinations, absolutely. But more importantly, create amazing experiences for visitors that teach them and create evangelists when they go back home with a little bit more knowledge around regeneration and sustainability, overall making the people and our planet healthier and happier. So I agree with Patrick. I went through all 17 of the SDGs and it intersects with all of them. But here I highlighted 6 that I wanted to touch on that I felt like the opportunity was significant. First is good health and well-being. On a biological level, cannabis and hemp work to rebalance things in many, many ways. So approaching those plants with reverence and understanding of that principle, and then looking at what that plant offers from a chemical compound point of view and all of its capabilities, and giving it the time and space to understand is vital, because it can lead this. Number 9 is industry innovation and infrastructure.
Tá meio ruim, lento, você pode falar.
And industry innovation and infrastructure will continue to grow. And that's for a destination development, but also what is that role in the visitor economy and how do you bring in travel as an immersive teaching platform? It can reduce inequities. There's a lot of social equity programs that are putting first mover opportunities to try to course correct from the war on drugs and create an even playing field at this foundational level of these burgeoning industries. Responsible consumption is part of the DNA of cannabis and hemp. You must approach it mindfully and with care. It's not more is better. It's understanding how to utilize it and why. Next is climate. Of course, environmental across the board. Cannabis and hemp are powerful tools. And partnerships. Being able to bring cultures and people around a common goal. Cannabis and hemp are powerful vehicles for that, to drive forward sustainability. So the key takeaways are cannabis and hemp are powerful tools. They can promote regeneration and sustainability in so many ways. Hemp is one of the most powerful renewable resources on earth that we're rediscovering all its amazingness today. Cannabis is a flexible and multi-layered toolkit that provides and promotes wellness and optimal balance in many ways. They should always be treated with reverence and respect. And travel is an immersive experiential platform to teach visitors in the world about earth stewardship, sustainability, regeneration, and compassion. And that will have a rippling effect as people travel, experience, and then return home. My name's Brian Applegarth. I'm a co-founder of Cultivar Strategies. We're a destination marketing agency that specializes in hemp and cannabis travel. We work with destinations in California and beyond. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Thanks, Mauricio.
Thank you very much, Brian. It was a pleasure to have you here. Very nice words, and I think that we had some overview. What is the SGS and how does it work perfectly with cannabis tourism, for sure. We have more like 2-3 minutes. If you want to have some quote or some idea for us. Also, Patrick is online. Okay, Patrick.
Yes, absolutely. What we do need to do is Brian just outlined very nicely there the framework for a more sustainable society and world based around cannabis, and it's beautifully presented, by the way, Brian. What we really need to do is help the decision makers who can move this forward in countries around regulation and legalization, for them to understand what this is really all about. And if they had just listened to Brian's 10 minutes presentation, that would give them a very crystal clear understanding of something very different to what they may know before and have a preconceived notion of something, cannabis, drugs, bad things, which is typically what people have because of many different reasons. So I think, that's one of the things we're trying to, the mission and goal we're trying to do is to help governments understand through education and excitement too, because this is incredible. This is a whole new world that we're unlocking here. And I'll pass it over to Brian for some final words, but that's one of the big takeaways that we need to do is we need to push this in our various different countries to those that can make the decisions to regulate and legalize through excitement and education.
Yeah, I agree. And, the travel industry audience who's probably watching today, the travel industry has shifted. So really looking at this from a destination development and stewardship point of view at the city official legislative level of how you're empowering your community with a sustainable model to embrace these industries is vital. And then taking it a step further of how to integrate it into the visitor economy in a way that uplifts your entire community. So it's a 2-part exercise for travel, but it's an amazing tool to take a leadership role in destination development and be a source of education and data and case studies for stakeholders at all levels. And that's really where it starts, is that education, that data, and those case studies. And I have some of that to provide. If anyone's interested, just reach out and continue to educate and get the knowledge out so we can have informed discussions. I find in my work, that's always the first step, is to get up to date and bring the conversation current.
Perfect.
I'll just say one final point there to Brian there. If you could imagine a hotel and going into the hotel and going into your room, and the soap and the packaging and the clothing, everything is made from hemp, and there's a story behind that around sustainability and why this hotel has chosen to be sustainable, and then the education around hemp. Could you imagine the progress that we would make, and the business and brand value for that particular hotel, just as an example? There's great business opportunities that will come from all this, which is going to drive significant economic prosperity for those that sort of take this on sooner rather than later.
Perfect. Wow, very good. It's a very pleasure to be with you guys here and rethinking tourism and cannabis tourism here today. And I want to say thank you and very much. And we have in our website, LinkedIn of Brian and also Patrick. If anyone wants to go there and start conversation, exchange some ideas, they are very open-minded and very flexible to talk. And I want to say thank you. And we have here a 1 minute video, and then we're going to start our second block.
Great.
Thank you very much, Brian, Patrick.
Ciao.
Hello everyone, and we are back for the second block. It's going to be a different block. We're going to make a conversation between me, Elizabeth Becker, and Steve DeAngelo. I want to say welcome.
Hi, Mauricio.
Hello, Elizabeth. Hello,
Thanks
Steve.
for having me.
Thank you very much to be here today for us to talk a little bit about cannabis tourism and SGS.
Fabulous. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Elizabeth. Great to be here with you and with Mauricio and with our audience.
Perfect.
So I think that Steve has a bit of a time, a time crunch. So I'll let him speak first, and I'll take the second position.
Okay, perfect. So Steve, how are you doing, man? We just talked this week, and we are talking to me about your new project over there in Jamaica, a cannabis tourism project, and we want to know more about it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to tell you about that. So over the course of the next year, I'm going to be building a retreat center, and actually we'll be welcoming guests starting in January to a place called Rastafari Indigenous Village in Montego Bay, Jamaica. It's a very interesting community, a authentic, genuine village that's composed of about 25 Rastafari practitioners, elders, musicians, and artisans who welcome visitors to come into the village and spend 5 days living the Rastafari indigenous lifestyle. What makes it super interesting right now is that this village, the Rastafari Indigenous Village, was the first Rastafarian community to incorporate other visionary plants into their spiritual practice. Of course, all Rastafari revere and use cannabis as a sacrament, but the village adopted ayahuasca, psilocybin, peyote, and other visionary plants and incorporated them into their spiritual practice. So part of the experience at Rasta Indigenous Village also consists of visionary plant ceremonies conducted in the style that's been developed there in the Rastafarian community.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. When I started to talk with Elizabeth and she told me about it, and I said, "Oh, that's going to be a very, very nice experience to go there." And I want to make one more question, Steve. When you talk about social justice and education, in your opinion, how can cannabis tourism help achieve these goals?
Well, I think that cannabis contributes to social justice in a very, very organic way. Back in the earliest days of this movement, when we didn't know the true history of cannabis, we knew nothing about the science, we didn't know about the medicine, we didn't know about industrial hemp. I'm talking about the 1960s and 1970s now. We knew one thing, which is that cannabis helped us be more like the people we really wanted to be. It made us be better people. And we thought that if more people consumed cannabis, it would work the same way for them. And that eventually, if enough people smoked cannabis, we would live in a different kind of world. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing now. I've traveled all over the world in the course of the last 3 years, visiting new cannabis economies, meeting people who love this plant. And what I've discovered is that no matter where in the world we come from, no matter our race, no matter our nationality, our religion, our educational level, how much money we have, we've all had the same experiences with these plants. And out of those experiences, we've learned common lessons. And out of those common lessons, we've built a value system. It's a shared value system. So wherever we are in the world, people who love cannabis, people who love and revere visionary plants, also have a set of values, right? Wherever we are, we value individual freedom, and we don't place much faith in authority. We place a great deal of importance on creativity, but we don't care very much about conformity. Discrimination and abuse are highly offensive to us, and the only thing that we really can't tolerate is intolerance. We believe in kindness and love over hate. And this is true wherever we are around the world. And so I think that just inherently, as we see more and more people consuming cannabis around the world, and as this plant teaches the lessons to more and more people that she has to teach, that we're going to be in a world where more people's hearts are open to being compassionate, to being sharing, to being generous, and to being loving. Perfect.
Nice words. And how can you imagine cannabis tourism 10 years from now? We are here to rethink about cannabis tourism. So how can you tell us what you think about how will be cannabis tourism 10 years from now?
Well, of course, you can tell from my last comment that I think that what's going on with cannabis is much more important than just a business, than just commerce. And so when I think about cannabis tourism, I think about the potential that it holds for introducing the global cannabis tribe to itself. Elizabeth's company does a really great job of this. Her whole company is just set up to introduce cannabis people to each other. And it's my belief that in the world today, collectively, there are hundreds of millions of us. We are as large or larger than all but the largest nations on earth. And there's tremendous power that lies in those numbers and in that shared value system. We bridge every border that usually divides human beings. And if we can learn how to talk to each other, if we can introduce ourselves to each other, if we can find common spaces to come together and learn how to move as one, then I think that we can make tremendous changes in the world. But the first step is meeting each other. It's saying hello. It's sitting around a table. It's sharing a joint. It's sharing a space. It's going to an event. It's going to a retreat. And that's what we're doing with cannabis tourism now. So we can think about it as commerce. We can think about it as a business. But for me, I really think about pilgrimages. I think about a sacred, sacramental journey of the heart I think about the way this plant has worked on the spirits and souls of millions and millions of people around the world. And now, with the laws changing, we finally have an opportunity to reveal ourselves to each other and to come together and to make the changes that this plant has come into our hands to help us make.
Very nice, very nice. And also the Airbnb, Elizabeth, we think that here that it's a perfect educational platform for talk about cannabis. And I want to know about you. Why do you create Airbnb, and how do you think that it can help? And why do you create Airbnb, and how do you think that the platform can help us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals?
So we're talking about the SDG platform.
No, I'm talking about Airbnb, like an educational platform of cannabis. How can Airbnb be like an educational platform? Like you said, like a tourism is going to be this place that we can know each other. And I think that Airbnb is this platform, like educational platform, that with the cannabis tourism can start to talk, can normalize the things.
Absolutely. Well, I created Airbnb for a few different reasons. One, living in Canada, I saw a great opportunity at the beginning of an industry that was legalizing to create something that could grow, and could touch many people in many regions. But I've also been a long-term cannabis advocate. It's something for me that has helped me to have a closer relationship with myself and a closer relationship with other people. So when I think about cannabis, I think about its ability to bring people together. And I created Airbnb because I wanted to create an opportunity where it's a low barrier of entry for people who wanted to get involved in the industry. With the legalization here in Canada, in the States, there's been a tremendous rush to the green rush of corporate and banker type people who are coming in because they want to make money. And the legacy players and people who didn't come from the corporate world were getting shut out. And so I wanted to create an opportunity where anybody could celebrate cannabis, anybody can participate in the cannabis industry, and we can support one another economically and also socially and culturally.
Perfect. And also, what's your vision about 10 years from now from Airbnb? How can we think about tourism? We have the challenge of our global community. So you are in Canada, Airbnb is also in other countries, but it's not the same law from everywhere. So how about these challenges? How do you think how we can fix it and make the things together?
I see it coming together kind of organically already. The cannabis community, people want to stay with and support like-minded people. So, my vision for the future of the cannabis tourism and cannabis community is giving individuals the opportunity to travel, stay with like-minded people where their lifestyle choice is respected and supported by whatever legal framework is available in that particular culture or country. In some instances, for example, in Mexico, you can grow your own. You're just not able to sell cannabis. So Airbnb provides a platform where I can travel, I can stay with somebody in a vacation rental, stay in their home, and they're free to share their property, their cannabis with me as I'm traveling. So it supports a lifestyle that has to date been heavily discriminated and stigmatized. And I feel very strongly that it's time for us to be able to enjoy a lifestyle where cannabis is part of our lifestyle without hiding or lying.
Mm-hmm. And how about
Mauricio,
okay?
I'm going to have to say goodbye to you and to the audience and to Elizabeth. I have another engagement I need to jump to, so my apologies.
No.
But it's been great being a part of the conversation here with you today.
Thank you very much, Steve.
So Mauricio, in terms of how high B&B supports the SDGs, it really hits a lot of them. I'll just scroll through a few of them to discuss it. Number one being no poverty. I believe that unregulated tourism in underrepresented countries is very dangerous because it creates social dislocation and loss of cultural heritage, a threat to the local population, and an increase of violence. So where we are able to put in a legal framework of decriminalization or support of the plant, then all of a sudden we're offering a framework to local communities and underrepresented countries where people have access to promote inclusion. Anybody can get involved. And so we're going in and cleaning up these areas, bringing people into, remote communities where they can really experience culture and community. And I just think that tourism around cannabis in unregulated markets, people have an understanding that that is dangerous, that's criminal, and you don't want to go into those areas. Sudden, when we legalize cannabis, when we promote it, then travel around cannabis communities suddenly becomes compassionate. When I'm going and staying with somebody in a cannabis community, I believe that they have compassion. They have the qualities of the plant that are non-judgment, inclusivity, acceptance, curiosity, elements that revolve around nature. And so there's a great opportunity in supporting cannabis tourism to help us really embrace a lot of the qualities that the SDGs support.
Perfect. The number 8 goal is decent work in economic growth. And I know that you have affiliate program over there in Airbnb. So how do you think that when you go to places like Colombia, like Brazil, so other places that the tourism is not so huge, like Spain, Portugal, and how can it help achieve this goal with your affiliate program?
Well, that's how we're going to grow, is that we're relying on people in the community to help us grow in their respective regions. So yeah, we have an affiliate program. We're looking for foreign language partners to help us develop other continents and other countries in different languages, so that we can fully support the cannabis tourism, cannabis culture as it's exploding, which it is right now. And we can't grow that fast without the assistance of foreign partners and affiliates.
We are here talking from Brazil, here in Salvador. And here, cannabis is only legal for a medical cannabis. And we are starting to discuss here in the Congress and all the society. And how do you, in Canada, it's advanced. And what kind of tips can you give to us about how does it goes the legalization and what's going wrong and what we can learn with cannabis legalization in Canada?
Thank you. That's a great question. So in Canada, they legalized the sale of cannabis, but they specifically did not legalize consumption. So there's no areas for social consumption. They've done half the job because they were afraid of, the stereotype of all of a sudden it's going to be a very bad scene, and they wanted to avoid that. So I think that legalizing cannabis medicinally is a great first step, and there's lots of ways that I'm seeing that is straddling the line towards recreational, such as a comedy event. I mean, laughter is the best medicine. And even if there's no cannabis, that you're encouraging people to come and bring their own cannabis, however they obtain it through legal channels. This is a way that we can start bringing people together, because legalizing the sale is one thing, but it's causing a lot of problems, as you probably know, with the industry. In California, we're having some problems fighting against the legacy and the legacy industry in Canada, the same thing is happening. So I think it's, the lessons that I see is that we cannot turn our back to the human connection that is required around cannabis. If we want to legalize cannabis, we also have to support and promote opportunities where people can come together to talk about their experiences, to help educate one another on the products that they're using and how they're using it. Here in Canada, there's no public program where they're educating the general public. I walk into a store and there's all these products, they look very much the same. And so there's no way for the general consumer to understand the difference between product categories and even, the same product within the categories. There's a lot of education that is necessary. And I think that's going to take a little bit of time.
Perfect. And how about today, the World Tourism Day? Do you have some message to spread for us, to talk about the cannabis tourism and leave the message for us?
Well, I think supporting cannabis tourism on an international level is a huge step towards the healing of the planet Earth, because the plant supports these great benevolent qualities that is bringing people together. And as soon as we can start fighting against unregulated sales and the black market and the violence that surrounds it, as soon as we can make cannabis regulated, then there's less opportunity for danger. There's less opportunity for over ingesting cannabis or taking too much and take the violence out of it. And there's such an opportunity towards the health and wellness as we start to study this plant and bring people together. So I've created Hi B&B. It's very similar to Airbnb and Eventbrite, but it supports the cannabis community. So anybody, anywhere can log on to our site at hibnb.life, L-I-F-E, and add a room if they have it for rent, or an activity or an event or a festival. And you can follow us at Experience Hi B&B.
Stay high, play high. Yeah, that's very, very nice. Yeah.
Stay high, play high, and get high. And excuse me for interrupting. I have one other thing to say that we've done here in Canada, which is supporting the legal industry. So my interest is bridging the legal industry with the cannabis community. And we can do that. We have certain events that are happening that are being branded by certain products. So we're giving an opportunity for the brands to speak through our Hi B&B hosts to a big yoga event or a big meditation event where the brand has education and information about their particular product, and sales of that product are promoted.
Perfect, Elizabeth. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time and for your energy. And we are going to have our next blog. And if anyone wants to go to our website and go there, they have the Elizabeth LinkedIn, and you also can contact her and talk about something, exchange some ideas, know more about Hi B&B. Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Mauricio. Thank you so much for including us.
Bye-bye. See you. So, in our third block, we are going now to talk about the future of cannabis tourism. And we have a pleasure to have here right now. We are here, Amanda. Hello, Amanda Reiman.
Hi, it's great to be here. That's Gracie.
Hello, Gracie. How are you doing? Very nice. We are going to talk here right now with Amanda and Georgi Gordon.
Hello, Mauricio. How are you? And hi, Amanda.
Hi, Georgi.
Hello.
And Gracie.
Very nice to have you two here. And like I told you in the last blog, right now we're going to have a very nice conversation, not an interview. It's for us to have some ideas about the future of cannabis tourism. We want to know a little bit about CTIA and the future of cannabis tourism. So Amanda, let's start. I want to know about your background. I saw that you are right now Chief Knowledge Officer of New Frontier Data. And I was taking a look over there, and they provide us a lot of data about cannabis market, and I want to know much more about it. Let's tell us.
Sure. So hi, everyone. It's great to be here. And thank you so much for putting this event on. So I'm Amanda Reiman. I'm a public health researcher by training, and I've been working in the cannabis space for over 20 years. So starting off in pure activism here in California in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then having the opportunity to study the cannabis industry as it moved from a movement to an industry here in California over the past 20 years. I'm a founding board member of the CTAI, and so joined Brian several years ago, I think 5-6 years ago already, to start looking at what cannabis tourism could look like. I live up here in Northern California in the Emerald Triangle, Mendocino County. So the Emerald Triangle is one of kind of the most preeminent cannabis tourist destinations in the world. I'm also on the council for the Ganjier program, which is similar to a sommelier program, where we bring people from all over the world up here to the Emerald Triangle to learn the ins and outs of cannabis service and to learn about the plants so that they can take the message out and really help consumers tap into exactly what they're looking for. And as Mauricio mentioned, my current role is Chief Knowledge Officer for New Frontier Data. So we are a cannabis tech company, and we use data, insights, and economic modeling to help retailers, brands, and others better understand who their consumer base is and what they're looking for in terms of product. So being a scientist and starting out when there was very little data on cannabis, especially consumers, beyond just what the teenagers were doing, it's just been wonderful to see such a rich amount of data come forth in the past few years, and to be able to use these data to dispel some stereotypes about cannabis consumers, but also to look for opportunities moving into the future, especially related to the sustainability goals of the UN, and how who the cannabis consumer is may be the perfect messenger for some of these goals. So I do have a slide. There it is. It's amazing. So, data, I wanted to build a little bit off of what both Brian and Steve were talking about when we look at who is the cannabis interested traveler. So again, these data come from MMGY, as Brian mentioned, but also Destination Analytics. And one of the things that we found is that the cannabis interested traveler is a really good ambassador for the types of sustainability goals that the UN is hoping for. So for example, when we look at their goals for travel, why cannabis motivated travelers want to travel in the first place, 37% say they're looking for relaxation, 29% are looking to go to beautiful places, and 23% are looking to escape and feel free, which of course is not that unusual. However, when we look at how cannabis travelers describe themselves, 36% say they are outdoor adventurers, and 31% say they're environmentally conscious. So we have this intersection of people that are both going to experience things like wellness, self-discovery, beautiful places, that also consider themselves adventurers and environmentally conscious people. And so when you put those two things together and add a plant like cannabis, you have opportunities for people to not only explore, but to really have connection with the communities, the environments, the cuisines in their destinations. And it's really this connection, I feel, that is going to help the UN really meet their goals. Because when you get people to care about the people, places, and things in their travel destination, they start to care about the well-being of those people, places, and things. And so looking at tourism not as an extractive practice where people are going to like trample all over the ground and leave a bunch of trash and not really understand the culture. Cannabis motivated travelers are a bit the antithesis of that. They go because they want to better understand the cultures and experiences of other people, because they want to be good stewards in their travel experience. And so these are the kind of folks that we want leading the future of travel, if the idea is indeed to improve the life and conditions of the people in the destinations, as well as the ways that travelers interact with the environment. So when we look a bit about who these folks are, we find that 42% plan to travel in the next 30 days. 47% are between the ages of 18 and 24, and 43% have a household income of above $125,000. So these folks are young, they have disposable income, they travel frequently, and again, their motivation is really not just extractive, but it's really to contribute to the environments in which they are. And, to go back to something that Steve said about just the cannabis plant and kind of what it does to us psychologically, it does open us up to new experiences, and it does make us curious and willing to ask questions. And I think that these are all really important parts of sustainable travel. So I think it's not just the type of person that enjoys cannabis and travel, it's actually the impact that the cannabis plant can have on the travel experience. And one last thing I'll say is that there was this kind of misnomer for years that people that use cannabis just want to consume and sit where they are. They don't want to do anything, the whole like sitting on the couch eating Cheetos stereotype, which has been pervasive for decades around cannabis, is really challenged by this. Because the reality is that consumers like effect pairing, which is a phrase that Brian likes to use a lot. They want to consume cannabis and do something, right? So they want to consume cannabis and go on a hike. They want to consume cannabis and try a new restaurant. They want to consume cannabis and go to an art gallery. So if you're out there and you're a destination, thinking about how you might lure in or market to cannabis travelers is to give them opportunities to access cannabis safely, as we were talking about with High B&B, but then also give them local attractions to do and help those local attractions feel comfortable with the fact that cannabis is a reason why people want to engage in them. If I had a local art gallery, I would go to a local dispensary and talk about how do we create cross promotion? How do we create a coupon for people that come to the dispensary to get discounts on the art gallery and vice versa? So that we're not just in these silos, but instead cannabis is a catalyst for destination communities to cross promote and to think about holistic, multifaceted experiences that will not only showcase what they have to offer, but will help the traveler understand why their destination is so special. And that in turn will have them be treated with respect for all future cannabis travelers that come through. So it really is an amazing opportunity, not just for travelers, but for communities and non-cannabis entities in legal areas that are looking to engage with folks who like the cannabis and effect pairing experience.
Perfect reflection. And hello, Georgie, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Mauricio. Thank you.
Yeah, very nice. And I want you to talk a little bit about your background and a little bit about the CTIA. How does it start? The association, the Cannabis Travelers Association International, and how are you thinking to build international, going out for you in the United States, going to Europe and other countries that is open right now, the cannabis legal?
Well, thank you, Mauricio. And I'm really glad to be representing the CTAI, which really embraces everything that everyone has spoken about today. And it is an organization devoted to destigmatizing the cannabis plant within the travel world. So just real quickly about me, one of the things I love about our industry, everybody's got a personal story about cannabis because it's a personal plant, which is also the name of one of Amanda's companies, but I wasn't just plugging it for that purpose. So back in the day, when I was young, I was back in the Kalalau Valley in Hawaii, on the island of Kauai. And at that time, I was basically living a hippie-ish lifestyle and growing the plant and working with the farmers there. And over the years, that was my first cannabis travel experience. And it really shaped my life, clearly. Over the years, I developed a career in doing public relations and strategic communications in the tourism and travel sector, particularly in the timeshare division. But what's happened over the years is those two forces have come together, and it's been a very exciting process. A colleague who knew what I was involved in suggested I speak with Brian Applegarth, who you met, and get involved in the Cannabis Travel Association. At that time, it was the California Cannabis Travel Association, and since then we have become international. And that word international is very important. If you go to our website, you'll see that our mission is to promote the development of safe and responsible cannabis tourism, unify the cannabis and tourism industries, and advocate for the enabling regulatory environment and promoting best practices in this space. So you've seen some of the people who are involved in our organization: Mauricio, Brian, Amanda, Elizabeth Beckman. All of us are members of this organization, which is devoted to cannabis travel experiences. So we're a fully registered 501c6 organization. And our members are people like tour operators, retailers, transportation companies, hotels, tourism boards, destinations, industry associations, media companies, and other organizations for whom cannabis tourism advocacy is really important. We have 3 pillars: advocacy, education, and networking. So if you're a member of our organization, you have access to some of the best travel data available. And Amanda just gave you a taste of the kinds of things that we have available to our membership. On the advocacy track, our members have access to toolkits, pre-made forms, letters, ways to reach out to the community so that they can learn how to get their businesses accepted in their community. And of course, every member has access to this wonderful professional brain trust and some of the leaders you've seen today. So in a nutshell, CTAI embodies and links many of these elements that we're talking about today. So I really encourage you to visit our website, www.cannabistravelassociation.org, or reach out to me at membership@cannabistravelassociation.org if you want to explore the membership opportunities we have and to get involved at this broader level. So thank you for letting me share about our organization, Mauricio, and thank you for this opportunity to present this important information for everybody here.
Perfect, Georgi. And do you believe that cannabis tourism can be an education platform to change this mindset that we are talking about? That stigma that the person that smokes some weed is always in the bed. And do you think that the cannabis tourism can change this mindset, like an educational platform? What do you think about this?
I think it already has. You know, Brian will tell you that he's gone now, so I can talk behind his back, but he'll tell you about when he went to Amsterdam to the coffee shops there and how that changed his mind. That's a mind-changing situation about cannabis. My experience in Hawaii was mind-changing and opened up the realm of the possibilities of cannabis. You know, there's that old phrase, you know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So a lot of people, when they get out of their comfort zone, get out of their day-to-day living, they're ready to try new things. And cannabis is one of those things, and it's really quickly having an impact, I think, on bringing the world together.
Nice, nice. And Amanda, I saw an interview that you had, that you said a sentence that's very nice, and it's like this: you don't need to consume cannabis to be successful in the industry. And I want you to talk about this.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, there's this idea among some that if you're not a heavy cannabis consumer or you're not really into consuming the plant, that you don't really have a role in the industry. And I think that in a time when it was really just about people giving patients advice about how to consume cannabis in a way that was going to help them, their health and wellness, then yes, having experience with the plant, understanding the effects of cannabis were an important part of that. But we've expanded well beyond that. And, you know, we need people with all kinds of areas of expertise to get involved in this industry if it's going to be successful. And I don't think we need to require cannabis consumption in order for somebody to play a great role in this industry. There are a lot of folks in travel and tourism who have unbelievable skills, who are members of CTAI, who are really not that interested in consumption, but more interested in how do we create culturally relevant experiences? How do we promote tourism that's environmentally sustainable? To Steve's point about looking beyond just cannabis and looking at other psychedelic plants, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people who have backgrounds in integration, in mental health, in retreats, to be involved in providing opportunities without necessarily having to be those that consume the plants themselves. So I think it really depends on the role that you want to take within the industry. But if you're somebody that has a talent in travel and tourism and believes that cannabis travel and tourism is a benefit to society and that it's going to help the UN sustainability goals, don't look at not being a consumer as being a barrier to your talents being needed, wanted, and appreciated in the cannabis space. Maybe someday you decide to consume, maybe you don't. There's so many products out there today. Many of them are non-intoxicating. So again, I think it's about being able to educate people and have them have good experiences. I mean, one of the biggest threats in my mind, cattail, to the continuation of the evolution of cannabis policies, right, and seeing more places legalize is tourism. If we have people from states like Kansas and Nebraska, where cannabis is still very much prohibited, come to California and have an amazing time with cannabis and be able to find the products that they like and have great experiences, they're going to go back to those states and talk about how cannabis should be legal and we should have this and why don't we have this. On the flip side, if they come to California or a legal state and have a really terrible time, they eat something that's too strong, they don't know where to go, they get in trouble at their hotel, there's a chance they're going to come back to their home and talk about cannabis legalization as maybe it's not a good thing. So it's like we kind of have this responsibility as the jurisdictions that went first with legalization to create environments for people that are newer to cannabis or don't know much about it or want to learn about it to have good, enriching experiences and not assume that everyone who comes into a dispensary has consumed before or everyone who's seeking out cannabis accommodations is a seasoned consumer. So there's a lot of education that has to be woven into this experience if we're really going to take advantage. So all talents are welcome.
Perfect. Very good. We are just ending here. And I wanna know if you wanna send us some message, some positive message for today, both of you.
Well, I would like to send a positive message because this time of year is like the beginning of school, and in my heritage, it's a new year. So I think this is a particularly good. We just had the solstice. I think this is a particularly good time to look at what cannabis and travel can do together to further advance the beauty of the plant in its experiences.
Perfect.
And I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And I would add that, coming out of COVID or still being in COVID, but slowly shifting the way we think about COVID, I think it's going to shift the way people think about travel. Travel maybe was a bit more frivolous before. People kind of went to places and said, we'll just figure it out when we get there. I think that's changed a bit. I think people are more mindful about what their experiences are going to be like, and they want to create experiences that are going to be memorable, that are going to be unique, and that are really going to give them something to take back with them. And cannabis just fits into that so perfectly. So I'm hopeful that we're going to see not only a new era of conscious travel, but a new era of conscious travel where cannabis can even deepen the connection that people have with their travel destinations.
Very, very good. Thank you very much. So I think that it was a very nice talk and very good idea to promote this event for exchange some ideas and start new projects. And I want to thank you very much for you both and everybody that is here listening for us, and Steve DeAngelo, Elizabeth Becker, Patrick, and Brian. I think that they're not here right now, but I want to say thank you to participate and stay here with us today. and probably we're going to invite people from United Nations to talk with us. We had to put these things in the table and start to figure out how they can exchange some ideas with us. So I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to our team here from LabSativa, Anna, Eric, Andra, and Boré. We had this idea like 2 weeks and said, oh, let's do the event, let's talk with people, and it was very nice to be here. So I want to say thank you. And in our website, they have over there some links and LinkedIn for each speaker. So if everybody wants to go there and reach them out, feel free. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This was
Thank you,
fantastic.
Mauricio.